Hello everyone, my name is Krishna Pristya Harja, and this is my video and introduced from my presentation in business English. The matter is here and gender and negotiation in business English, and I from the TIB2J from Universitas Mulia University, and this is my presentation, business English and gender and negotiation. This is introduction. Investigate the difference in the terms sex and gender, and reviewing the theoretical views on gender difference in negotiations. Testing empirical research evidence on the psychology of gender in negotiations. Defining the meaning of gender and gender. The terms sex and gender are considered synonymous in common as outside of scientific circles. Even so, the difference between the two is very important to biologists, psychologists, and other experts. This is a different gender, sex, referring to biological categories, namely male or female. Gender is a set or quality in which organisms are classified as male and female based on their reproductive organs and their functions. Refers to a gender indications, cultural and psychological. It is aspects of race or identity rather than biological aspects that differentiated men and women in culture and society. Research regarding gender difference in negotiations. There is no simple answer to the questions of how gender affects negotiations, but recent research shows that such difference exists and why it is difficult to find them in comparisons. Of male and female negotiators. Male and female negotiators seen from theoretical perspective. Several important factors influence the way men and women in negotiations. Relational view of others. Women put more emphasis on interactions, goals, interpersonal aspects of negotiations. Men are more driven by specific goals. From agency perspective, women tend not to make clear boundaries between negotiations and other aspects of their relationships with other people, but instead see negotiations as behavior that occurs in a relationship with no part of marking when it starts and ends. Because women are more likely to see negotiations as the natural flow of the relationships, they are less likely to recognize that negotiations is always happening. Men tend to limit negotiations from other behaviors that occur in the relationships and to mark the beginning and end of negotiations behavior. Belief in ability and feasibility. One's self-worth and expectations influence how men and women approach the negotiating table. For example, in salary negotiations, women are more likely to see their eligibility as what their employer will pay them. Men expect to earn more than women throughout their careers. Control through authority. Men and women acquire and use power in different ways. Women are more likely to seek authority where there is interactions between all parties in the relationship to build connections and increase everyone's power. Men can be recognized by the use of power to achieve their goals or to force other parties to capitulate, summarize their point of view. Solving problems through dialogue. Women and men use dialogue in different ways. Women look for ways to be involved in seeking composite ideas, where understanding is done by progressive clarification through interaction. They also alternatively listen and contribute. And this results in a set of narratives that reflects emerging understandings. Men as dialogue to convince the other party that their position is correct, to support various tactics and ways used to win points during discussions. Perceptions and stereotypes. Stereotypes are judgments about a person based on perceptions of the group in which that person can be categorized. Stereotypes can be positive or negative prejudices. How to negotiate, accept, and framing the negotiations process can have an important impact on negotiating behavior. Refers to ideas. Men have advantage in negotiation as a dominant cultural stereotype. For female negotiators, this can mean a reputation to start with. Negative stereotypes about female bidders shape the expectations and actions by men and women at the negotiating table. Men and women understand negotiations in different ways. Male and female negotiators have very different views or interpreting or framing conflict situations. Relationship versus task orientation. Women tend to accept various episodes of conflict in terms of relationships, whereas men tend to accept the characteristics of tasks from episodes of conflict. Empirical findings regarding different gender in negotiations. Competitions versus collaboration. Women perform worse than men when negotiating on their own behalf, but can outperform men when acting on behalf to other individuals. Other individuals. The performance of male negotiators is not affected by context manipulations. Expect results. Women have a tendency to ignore the potential it has for negotiation than men and expects less results from negotiations than men. Men and women communicate differently in negotiations. How men and women accept communication behaviors that arise during negotiations. Men are more assertive than women. Women are more likely to disclose personal information and their feelings than men. Men and women chose different examples to support their arguments during negotiations. Women tend to be argumentative or unfriendly in negotiations in cyberspace, via email, compared to face-to-face negotiations. Men, there is no difference between the two channels of communication is in negotiating. Men and women are treated differently in negotiations. Women in negotiations are often treated worse than men during negotiations. Similar tactics have different effect when used by men versus women. Trade-off tactics, reminding the supervisor of previous assistance and offering to make sacrifice. Trade-off tactics have a positive impact on salary outcomes for male employees and a negative impact on salary negotiation outcomes for female employees. This is because women use the same negotiating tactics as men, but are less successful than men. Aggressive tactics. Research shows that there are differences in the reaction of people who negotiated aggressively. In hiring negotiations, men and women are less likely to be required when they bid aggressively. However, women were 3.5 times less likely to be required when they were aggressive. Gender stereotypes affect negotiation performance. How male and female negotiators perform varies depending on the type of stereotype sex roles activate in a given situation. Stereotype reduce woman negotiating performance. Women act worse because of active negative stereotypes. Men can be better off because of positive stereotypes play. The negative impact of stereotypes regarding gender difference can be overcome. Negative stereotypes about women at the bidding table can sometimes increase performance. Women outperform men in mixed gender negotiations. Actified stereotypes can outweigh actual gender negotiators. When on-female stereotypes is activated, negotiators of both sexes obtain more integrative outcomes. Overcoming the weakness of diverse gender. Motivational interventions. Women are more often penalized for behavior that appears to be self-promotional. Therefore, female negotiators tend to play with the management of the other's impressions to get a better outcome. As a consequence, women may earn less than men. To break pattern is by emphasizing the mutual dependence of both parties by making less self-promotions in negotiations for each side. Overcoming the weakness of different gender cognitive interventions. Having a strong mindset. Awareness of the role of power in a situation. And this is my presentation, and thank you from myself, and hope you enjoy this my presentation, and I'm sorry for the this is a wrong I'm sorry about wrong presentation and my accent. And yeah, thank you very much. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.